I'm just gonna start off today's video by saying we made it. Okay, I got all the way through my finals, I passed every class, and so now I officially have the next 3 months or so, maybe like a little more. I'm not sure exactly when school goes back, but I've got about 3 months to just go ahead and do whatever I want on this YouTube channel. I'm trying my best to get videos up every other day, so if you've been watching so far this week, then you saw the video on Friday, so this video will come out on Sunday, as long as everything goes to plan. I've got a lot of work to do on the Porsche engine, and I also have a lot of cleaning to do, but most of this stuff is going onto the cars. It's kind of all just scattered around the garage right now, but that's not really the end of the world because a lot of the things are going to be going back on the car very soon. And so before I can even do any work on the Mustang or anything like that, I have to get this engine back in the car. It doesn't have to start, but the engine has to be in the car because I can't even pull a car in this garage all the way with this engine stand and everything set up right here. So the number one priority right now is gonna be to get the engine put back together and put back in the car. I'm still waiting on the clutch to get here, but luckily it was back in stock on FCP Euro's website, so shout out to them. It should be here in the next couple days, so that means we need to get this ready. I've got a bunch of parts ready to go on here, and I'm not even entirely sure where to start with it, but I'm just gonna start kind of pulling things apart. I went to the store today and I bought a prop-up table, so that way I can just set things on the table as I go, put them all in a nice order, so that way when I put things back together, I'll remember where things go. I also got some plastic baggies for all the hardware, so I feel pretty prepared to kind of dive into this. So without further ado, let's get on it. So as I go through this process, the main thing I'm going to be doing is just starting with all the problems that the previous owner told me about. So the first thing he said was that the oil pan was leaking, and as you can tell by looking at this thing, it's got lots of grime all over it. I do suspect that the oil pan gasket was leaking, so I'm going to go ahead and just start with the oil pan. I think that'll be the easiest thing to do, so I went ahead and drained all the oil out, as you guys saw. And then over in this box over here, oh wait. No, not that box, sorry, one sec. Okay, sorry, I just have way too many boxes. In this box right here, I have a new oil pan gasket. So this is one of the many parts that I bought for this car. If you're curious to see the whole list of everything that I bought, there's a link in the description to a Google Sheet that has everything laid out with the price of every single component. So we're gonna go ahead and get this new oil pan gasket on here, and while I have the oil pan off, I'm gonna clean it all off and make it nice and shiny and make it look good. Because obviously I need to show off my clean oil pan at car meets and stuff like that. That's real important to me. So I've gotten the oil pan off the engine. One thing I find kind of interesting is that I'm pretty sure the oil pan gasket was leaking on this side, and the way I could tell, not only because there's just tons of grime over here and this side is pretty clean, but also because the gasket itself has these little metal seals where all the bolts go, and this side, the rubber part around the seal is like kind of decaying. It's kind of strange, but then of course right around all those were the bolts that were just disgusting. So I'm pretty sure that that's probably what caused the leak, which is kind of interesting. I've always like kind of being a detective, I guess, when I'm like working on an engine to try to see what went wrong, and I think that that was the problem. So I'm gonna go ahead and replace this, but before I put the oil pan back on, we're gonna give it a good clean because everything on here is so crusty. Nasty. Blech.
Later.
Okay, so I've gotten the oil pan about as clean as I could get it with the power washer. I'm sure I could have sat there with the wire brush for longer and just gone over it a million more times, but I didn't really want to spend the next like 3 hours just cleaning the oil pan. So before I put it back on the car, I'm just going to take a magic eraser and try to get the little like specks off of it that are left, because it's pretty good, but there's still like some small things. I'm not sure if they'll come through on camera, but I just want to give it a good once over before it goes back in the car. And I used the magic eraser a little bit to test it. It actually did a pretty good job. So I'm just going to go over it real quick and then we'll move on. Alright, so I've gotten the oil pan to a point that I'm happy with it. The perfectionist in me wants me to keep going, but I just don't think it's worth putting all the effort into just the oil pan. I wish that I had some better equipment for cleaning this stuff, but honestly I think it's looking pretty good, especially compared to how it looked before. I mean, you guys saw it in the video. This thing was just absolutely caked with all sorts of grime and oil residue and all sorts of crap. The only thing that I don't really like is how there's still a bunch of residue left in these cooling fins. I can't really get to them because the fins are actually deeper than my my wire brush. So unfortunately, that's just gonna have to stay. But like I said, it is just the oil pan. It's going underneath the engine, so I'm not really that concerned, but you know, I always try to make things look as good as possible. So other than the grime in there and then little bits of grime in the corners, I think that this turned out pretty good. It's looking pretty shiny. I think I could take some Scotch-Brite to it and make it look even better, but I don't have any Scotch-Brite. So I think I'm just gonna let it be for now. Now I'm gonna move on to the inside of the oil pan because I got a bunch of water in there, so I need to dry it out and make it nice and clean and everything. And there is like this weird little plastic channel in there. I don't know, I'll show it to you guys in just a sec. Alright, so taking a closer look at the inside of the oil pan, you can see that there's this little like plastic panel in here. I'm not entirely sure what that's for. I think it's probably just to help direct oil, so that way as it's cycling it comes right back to the filler tube and whatnot. But I'm gonna go ahead and pull this out real quick to make sure that I can clean the inside of this out completely, because when I was spraying it off I got a bunch of water in there, so there's just some like Allen bolts, I believe. But I'm gonna go ahead, pull that out of there, clean the inside of this as much as I can. I'm obviously not gonna be too picky with the inside of the oil pan. The main thing is just getting all the leftover crap out of there. But then this should be pretty much ready to go back onto the engine, so we're making progress. Well, unfortunately for me, the middle bolt is stripped and I was unable to pull it out, but luckily since I can kind of wiggle this a little bit, I'm gonna be able to clean underneath it and everything, but that kind of sucks, so I wasn't actually able to get this little black thing out of here, but it's okay. We're just gonna move on, make sure that all this is wiped out and reach up under it and everything, and then we'll get it back on the engine. Moving onward, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to scrape this gasket surface. Now, this oil pan is aluminum, so if you're doing this at home, make sure you don't gouge it. I like to use a razor blade that is longer than the width that I'm trying to scrape, so that way I don't accidentally gouge it with the point. But I'm probably not going to get every single ounce of this off just because it's aluminum and I'm trying to be super careful, but I do want to get some of this residue off because there's a lot of the original gasket just kind of stuck on there. So I'm going to go ahead and just scrape this down as best I can without gouging it, and then we'll get it back on the car. Well, boys, something that I was hoping wouldn't happen happened, so I went ahead and made an executive decision to go ahead and stop for tonight because I'm going to show you what I ran into. So while I was scraping down this gasket surface, I was doing my best to not let any of like the dust or things that were coming off of this fall down into here, and of course it happened. So I tried my best to wipe it out, but then I realized that some of it got underneath this little plastic oil thing, whatever. I don't even know what this is. I'm not even sure. That means that I need to take this off so that way I can fully clean the inside of this, and that means that that stupid stripped Allen bolt needs to come out. Unfortunately, I can't get vice grips to it or anything like that. It's just wedged down in here. It's kind of a strange design, but that means that I need to drill the head of that bolt off. So I'm not going to do that right now because it's late and I'm not trying to wake up everybody within a mile radius. So this video will be continued first thing tomorrow. I mean, it'll be tomorrow for me, but it's going to be like 5 seconds for you guys. Oh, focus. All right, so it's the next day. I'm wearing the same clothes, but it's my engine building clothes, so I wasn't about to like change. Just give me a break. All right, so, but anyway, we've got the oil pan here. I just spent a little bit of time just finishing up scraping off the gasket material. I'm just trying to be super careful with the razor blade because I really didn't want to gouge the aluminum. Don't think I did. I've got it pretty smooth. And so the next step, like I said last night, we're gonna go ahead and drill out that bolt, which just sucks. I just really don't want to do that, but it's okay. So this morning I went and bought some WD-40, so we're going to lubricate the bolt. I've got the drill bit that I need, and so then should just be able to put some safety glasses on and hopefully just drill the head off the bolt without ruining this entire thing. Yes! Oh, that couldn't have gone smoother. Heck yeah. That right there is our culprit. Oh, it's probably not going to focus, but I got the head of the bolt off, so finally got this stupid little oil thing out of here. And I'm actually glad I did, because you guys might be able to see there's still a ton of like oil residue down there. So I want to go ahead and just get all of that out of here so that I don't have to worry about it and just have like a perfectly clean oil pan. Since I've gotten this far with it, it's like I might as well just go all out and just make it super clean. So that's what we're gonna do real quick. Probably not gonna show it because I've already shown so much cleaning, but I'm just gonna go ahead, clean that out and do like the final rinse and everything on it, and then I'll get it back on the car finally. I know I keep saying that. I'm like, no, we'll get it back on the car, and then I do something else, but it's just a process, you know, gotta make this thing perfect. All right, so moving over to the engine, I went ahead and just did the same thing I did with the oil pan and just took a razor blade and kind of scraped around this bonding surface where the gasket's gonna go. Now, the last thing I'm gonna do before I put the oil pan back on is I'm gonna take some RTV sealant, or just gasket sealer, whatever, and put it in between the gasket and the block itself, where the gasket kind of runs along this flat surface and then goes over the girdle for the crankshaft. Just right in those corners on all four, so there's 2 on this side and then 2 on this side over here, which you guys can't really see right now, but just take a little bit of sealant and just stick it in that corner, so that way no oil will be able to seep out of there, because I think that that's like the weakest point with rubber gaskets, is always right over the girdle that goes over the crankshaft. So we're gonna go ahead and do that, put the oil pan on, and then I think that'll wrap this video up. So we're almost done. Alright guys, so I just got every single bolt torqued down. Everything is as close to a spec as I can get it. The torque specs on this are not very tight, so I actually kind of just felt it by hand. Like, I got it as tight as I could, and then I turned it like 1/8 of a turn more, and I went around and did that. And then I did that all again with just like an extra 1/4 turn or something like that. It's probably not perfect, but the main thing is just you don't want like one bolt super tight and the other one's not, because the torque spec on this is like 8 foot-pounds. So I didn't get it perfect. I don't have one of those nice digital torque wrenches, and I actually tried to rent one, and it's gone. Like, somebody else was already renting it. So I just went ahead, put this on here, just made sure it wasn't too tight. But that's gonna wrap this video up, I think. I don't think there's much more to cover today. In the next video, we'll start pulling all these different components off the side. We'll get the intake manifold off and all this other stuff. It's like an oil cooler and all sorts of weird things. Cool Porsche things on this engine, but I hope you guys are looking forward to that. Oh, and by the way, make sure you guys leave a like if you enjoyed this type of video, because this is a lot of work. Like, I put tons of work into this, and I really appreciate it if you guys leave a like. But as always, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out and dream big.